Hey y'all, hi. Okay, so last night I went over to a friend's house, a neighbor, with another friend. At the last minute, her husband and kids were out of town. She was like, let's hang out because we all really love that, but we don't get to see each other very often. So at the last minute on like a school night, weeknight, middle of the week, we were just talking until like 3 a.m. Okay, so then a few hours later, I woke up and took my own kid to school, and now I am at work. I thought I would film myself putting on makeup with every micro strategy for this situation explained. Makeup for when you're exhausted, work or school makeup for when you're exhausted. I'm going to be doing my version of it, but talking about it in a way that makes it translatable to your life. Hopefully, that is the goal. If you're new to my channel, I'm so glad you're here. My name is Hannah. I make videos about makeup and fashion. I hope you'll subscribe if you like it. I'll also link my book at the top of the description box down below. Let's get into the meat of the video. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is change my shirt. This is just a shirt I threw on this morning. Then when I was putting sunscreen all over my kid to send him off, I got sunscreen all over the shirt. It also has cat hair on it because I had to give my cat her medication this morning. She was all up on me. It's not the shirt that I plan to wear to work, okay? In this situation, I'm going to choose a bright white shirt. I'll put it on, I'll be right back and I'll tell you why. So this is a shade and a brightness of white that really works for me. This is one of the Quince ribbed t-shirts. I love them so much. They come in a 3-pack. You know I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed with these Quince organic cotton rib tops. Anyway, this one, style-wise, it's correct for me, right? My job, the work that I'm putting on makeup to go to is filming YouTube videos, editing YouTube videos, essentially working from home in like the realm of style and beauty. So this makes sense for me, right? Maybe a bit informal for some workplaces. So the style of your shirt might vary depending on how formal you need to look for work or for school. The shade of white might vary depending on your complexion, like what shade you like to wear. I recommend when you're in this situation, a bright white shirt or whatever that means to you, because it really telegraphs polish, put togetherness. It telegraphs that not only to the world when you go out in the world, but to yourself. So I put it on and already I feel a little bit more like, I can do this. I'm also going to pin back my hair a little bit. Actually, I'm going to use this. This is a Machete claw clip. Machete makes the best, sturdiest, and most beautiful claw clips. This one is really strong enough to hold my super thick hair back, even though it's so small. And I think that this burgundy and pink check was limited edition. It was like a collab that they did with the skincare brand HALLIE. They have other check patterns and other really beautiful patterns in this clip and clips of different sizes. I'll link it below. So I'm using it to pull back some of my hair and using some bobby pins to secure all of the little flyaways. Again, this is like a small, easy thing that I can do to just make myself look, but I think more importantly, feel a bit less ragged. It's already working. And also with my hair out of my face, it makes it easier to do what I'm going to do next, which is to really wake up the skin with skincare. So I splashed water on my face this morning to kind of rinse away the skincare that I had slept in. And then I put on one serum, a couple of pumps of this vitamin C serum from Mother. It's the #1 serum and it feels so nice. I actually haven't used it before today. I'm testing it. It feels like a really potent, extremely elegantly formulated vitamin C, and it's sitting really well in my skin. And I feel like it was protective enough that it was all I needed for the like half hour that I was getting myself together to come and film, like getting the makeup and everything. But it's not going to be enough for a day like this. It's not going to be enough. I feel like the goal today is to put in enough of an effort with everything so that it counteracts the exhaustion, but not so much in any one direction or any one aspect of the makeup and the styling, not so much in any one direction that it feels like a little bit too much and like starts to feel like it's trying to cover up something. Too much lipstick will turn into lipstick on a pig, you know what I mean? The pig of my exhaustion. So we have to kind of rein it back. And so when it comes to skin, I feel like the more skincare, the more that I can do from within, plump, moisturize, hydrate, awaken, the more that I can do that, the less actual makeup I'll have to put on to cover. And that will achieve that ultimate goal, that sort of umbrella goal with skin. So I'm going to use some of this Superfood Skin Drip from Youth to the People. I like it in this roll because it's a little bit more moisturizing. It's a little bit thicker and sturdier than just an essence, like a hydrating essence for skin prep. It feels like real skincare, like a layer of really moisturizing skincare. So it's adding protection, helping my skin stay hydrated throughout the day and not just in this moment. And I feel like layering thin skincare products at this time is key. Layers of serums. And so layering in sort of a thicker one, a more heavy duty one, makes sense. Now I'm going to move on to one that is a skin prep essence, but that is also pretty heavy duty. So this is a runnier essence, but it also has some body to it. And I'm putting quite a lot on. I'm doing 2 pretty hefty applications, really massaging it into the skin and then like patting it and packing it into the skin. Even so, I feel like I've gotten to a point where my skin's kind of saturated. Like I can't get it into the skin anymore, partly because it was already serum, demoisturized. This is like the super saturation point where no more can go on or it will just sit on top. And that's where I want to be with a skin day like this, where it's sort of like dry, gray, drawn, not enough sleep, not enough water kind of thing. So I'm going to let that sit for a while and I am going to plump my lips with a lip plumper. So this one's from Lawless. It's Forget the Filler. It's just an effective, slight stimulant to like plump the lips, and it's also really hydrating and protective. So my skin prep here has been to basically just put as much moisture and protection and hydration into the skin and into the lips as possible. And I'm going to let it sit in there and on there for a little while I do some other parts of my makeup that aren't skin. I'm going to start with my brows. So the overarching goal being not to go overboard in any one direction, but to sort of keep it polished up, like polishing up the grungy self a little bit, but without making anything too defined, too sharp, too kind of conspicuously trying to fix it. That is particularly important with brows because brows are where I always get carried away, go overboard, create like a really sharp shape, a really overdone area of makeup, and then it throws everything else off. And I either have to do a lot of makeup on the rest of my face to balance it out, or it's incongruous. I talked about this recently in my video about why perfect makeup doesn't actually look good. So going into brows, I'm aware that that's a danger, and here's what I'm going to do. Using this $19.99 lash tint mascara, a lash and brow tint in the shade Taupe, which also has some black mascara mixed into it because I often use this product on my lashes with black mascara and they kind of all get mixed together. So it's the shade Taupe, but it's probably a little bit darker even than the way that it comes when it's brand new. Using this, I'm just gently kind of pushing my eyebrows into shape, into a semi-symmetrical shape, and coating the hairs with the product, making sure not to get any of the moussey substance onto my actual skin underneath. Just gently coating the hairs, giving them a little bit of body, a little bit more presence, and moving them into shape, but without worrying too much about filling in any gaps or indeed making my brows look perfect. Then I'm just going to leave it like that. Basically, I've just made it so they're not falling like a sad souffle anymore. And if they don't stay, if it's not enough, or if they get messed up throughout the day, I can fix it. I'd rather commit to doing that than overdo it now and be like, oh no, and then feel like I'm a bit out of whack with the way I've put myself together. Let's move on to eye makeup while the skincare continues kind of set and soak in. On the eyes, which is where exhaustion tends to show the most, I feel like in this moment, the best strategy is to kind of work with the shadows and smudginess a little bit instead of trying to completely counteract. So completely counteract would look like concealing under the eyes with a really thick layer of concealer, concealing the lids with a thick layer of concealer and totally blanking out everything and obscuring all of like the shadows and the smudginess and the sort of rings and texture that are there because they didn't get enough sleep. And then painting on like a paint by number eyeshadow look on top of that so that nobody can see how tired I am. So instead of that, I'm going to kind of enhance the shadows that are there, but not so much that it's like, again, like a full eye look, just a little bit. I'm just going to gently lean into the shadows. So I'm using this. This is the Bobbi Brown Longwear Cream Shadow Stick in the shade Golden Bronze. And I'm going to artlessly smudge it into my lash line and my waterline with the tip of the crayon. I was just going to use my fingers. I'll probably use a combination of my fingers and this Sigma X Samantha detail pencil, which is really great for this kind of thing. Okay, so I'm smudging it onto my lash line with my finger, smudging it out on the lower lash line using the brush. Then I'm tapping a thin layer of it with my finger all over each eyelid, kind of translating and making sense of the purplish, blotchy color that is on my eyelid this morning. It's like using that shadowy quality to make an eye look that shares those qualities, but that also makes beauty sense, like makes aesthetic sense. And for me, for my work, like for what my job is, this bronze shade makes sense. Like it works with my coloring, it works with the formality level of my daily life. But for you, if you have a more formal workplace or you don't feel comfortable with shimmer, for example, you could do the same thing with a taupe that is matte or a matte eyeshadow of like a mid-tone to your skin. So whatever is sort of like a mid-tone to your skin tone, and matte, if that's easier, that would be like the classic thing to do this with for work. I just really like this bronze shimmer. And that is worked out. I'm going to put on a little bit of mascara. And I'm going to do what I was describing to you before with the brow products. So this is the Kulfi mascara, which I really like because it's lengthening and kind of natural. It leans towards wispiness, but it's also a tubing mascara, so it's really easy to remove at the end of the day. So tiny touch of that on each set of lashes, and then going in with the 1999 brow and lash mascara in taupe, the same thing I was using before on my brows, and using, it's like a really skinny brush with sort of a dry mousse on it, like a dry raspy mousse, and really, really fine brush. Using that to comb through the mascara, to comb it through my lashes, and also adding some of that taupe color. And I ended up with these quite natural looking but defined raspy wispy lashes that are a little bit tangled and match the eye look completely. I like this because I love the finished look. I love how kind of natural and not try hard it is. It's not too dark black, which can be kind of shocking on my pale complexion. And it also doesn't take very long. It's like a really amazing result in such a short amount of time. Mascara can sometimes get out of hand and you're trying so hard to like fix it and to make it right. And this is just like the perfect level in the perfect amount of time. And the hope is, after all of that time, although the other hope is that if you're doing this for work on a morning when you're exhausted, that it wouldn't take as long as it's taking me because I'm explaining everything, right? This should be pretty quick because it's not that intense. It's an imperfect science, right? The joy of embracing like imperfect makeup or having the goal be that you're not too done up is that it doesn't need to take as long because there's not as much precision. For my skin, I am going to go as lightly as possible and put as little on my skin as possible because the texture of my skin is good right now, especially for someone exhausted, because I put so much skincare on there, and frankly, because the road, it's just so glazing. It really is. So I don't want to take away from that. I don't want to cover that up. I just want to use products that will integrate with the glow that's there in a way that softens the redness of my face a little bit and the blotchiness, right? Because this is how the rest of my body looks, and my face is kind of darkened with redness, and it's aggravated this morning because I didn't rest enough. So this is a Givenchy Prism Libre Skin Caring Green Color Corrector. And I'm rubbing this in with my hands because, again, the goal is to get it as integrated into the skincare as possible and to keep the glow that's on the skin there. So I'm trying to essentially mix the products together, or at least rub this so well into what is there that it kind of sinks in and the glow comes through. And I'm also not putting this on like the high points of my cheeks, which is where people tend to put blush, because I don't want to color correct there. It's okay if it's red there, right? Putting it on the parts of my face where I don't want that redness to be, rubbing it in, and then kind of giving it a minute to sink in, giving my skin a minute to calm down, because the rubbing also causes brief redness. I have to like wait and see what the color corrector did after that brief redness from my skin being rubbed has calmed down. And actually, now that that's calmed down, it did a lot, right? It pretty much almost got me there. And I'm going to give myself a little pep talk at this moment, which is this. Objectively, my skin actually looks good, right? I don't need to put on a lot of concealer. I don't need to cover every inch of my skin. Most of my skin, I'm going to point it out. My whole forehead, my nose, the high points of my cheeks, even my chin today. The green color corrector really took it almost all the way there. And the sides of my face, I've got some scarring. It's a little bit hard to see on camera. You can see the pits there, and there are like these dots of scars from recent blemishes, but it doesn't look bad that. That doesn't look bad right now. It just looks like real skin. I am going to refrain from the temptation to try to cover all of that up. What I do want is to take down the redness like here, because I feel like when you're tired, when you're dehydrated, redness starts to kind of show down here in this like undercarriage of the cheek area. I feel like redness in this area kind of drags down the face, and it also makes it look a little bit puffier because that's part of what I'm dealing with. So I want to go a little bit further than what the green color corrector could do on this area of the face, but I want it to be quite natural and blend in with everything and not turn into a concealing party where I'm like all over my face trying to conceal every blemish and every scar. So I'm using the Refi Concealer in the shade 03. In the middle of the winter, this was a shade that I would use kind of on the perimeter of my face, and then I would use the shade 01 in the center of the face in the high points. But right now, I've gotten some sun. 03 is like extremely neutral and sort of grayish, and I feel like if I use a quite brightening concealer on this very natural complexion, it will really look like makeup. So I actually am going for a darker concealer so it'll sort of blend in more and I'll look less made up and less like I'm really trying to desperately cover up how tired I am. So just putting that in that area, like underneath the curve of the cheek, has made an enormous difference. And I'm so glad I didn't take it further than that. And I covered a little bit of the hormonal redness around my nose, and that's it. I am going to dot a little bit on the darkest scars of recent blemishes along my jawline, and then just tap to blend that out, just to take down the contrast a little bit of those scars against my skin. But that is it. That's all that I'm going to do. Okay, I feel like I have a tiny bit of redness to lingering redness around my mouth. I'm going look at this tiny amount. I'm going so carefully. Okay, that's it. That's it. That's it. That's it. So I've kept it as fresh and low coverage as possible. Going very slowly, checking myself before I wrecked myself, and I think that it worked out. For the cheeks, I'm going to use a color that is as natural as possible, right? Something that I feel like is a color that my skin actually flushes, something that's really neutral and not too bright. This is the Merit Flesh Balm in the shade Bespoke, and you can see that it blends out to kind of a watercolory and sort of, like brownish red wash. So I'm going to get it as integrated into the skin as possible. And I'm actually going to use a brush. I happen to have the Merit brush right here. That goes on really easily. I love this soft brush for that, especially for trying to get a subtle look. Remember, there's nothing on my cheeks except for skincare. I didn't put green color corrector there. I didn't put concealer there. I'm just tinting the skin that is there, essentially a slightly more vigorous version of itself than what it was before, so they don't look washed out. But it's not much of a blush look, right? It's just a little bit of a balancing. I have this NARS Light Reflecting Eye Brightener, which I do tend to like to save for towards the end of my makeup if I'm going to use it. I learned that from the backwards makeup video. My under eye area, it doesn't look great, and there is some shadowing there. I don't get super dark circles, so even on days like this, it's not the main thing that I have to deal with. I'm going to use a little bit of this though with a brush, the Sarah Creel brush. Wow, I feel like that really brightened my under eye area, like almost too much. Do you see that? Which is kind of the effect that I was worried about. I'm like trying to blend it in a little bit more, but it also might just be shocking me because I'm used to looking at myself with kind of some blue under my eyes today, and now it's gone. Whether it's too much or not, for me today, the takeaway I think is just that with a product like this, there's something to be gained by putting it on later instead of starting with it. Because again, it is so powerful, it is so brightening that starting with it and like canceling out the dark circles completely, then you're starting with like a really bright under eye, and in order to balance it out, you might have to put on more makeup or feel like you do. And so you start doing this thing where this has to match that and this has to match that, and then before you know it, it is that situation where you put on a lot of makeup that sort of calls attention to the fact that you're tired in a way. Putting on a small amount at the end like this, and then really blending it into the cheek that's already there, blending it into the eye look that's already there, which is like the eye look is designed to make use of those shadows. So I've only concealed the parts of my under eye that aren't being used by the eye look to make it what it is. You know what I mean? It makes it so that it's a little bit more balanced and integrated than it might otherwise have been. The only thing that's left is lips. Lips to me on a day like this, plumped with the plumper, which has done its work, so I'm going to remove it now. So the lip plumper is kind of like skincare for the lips, right? Just bringing them back to life a little bit. And now I'm going to apply a product. You can wear the Lawless, you can wear Forget the Filler like as your lip gloss, but I really want to wear the Edem Lip Softening Balm in the shade Boba Bounce. I really love the way that this product makes the lips look, and I love how it feels. It is hefty, it's thick, it creates a moisturizing layer, it stays on for a really long time, especially for what is essentially a liquid balm, and it's very beautiful. So it definitely looks like makeup to me, but it really, really feels like skincare, and that's what I need on a day like this, and on most days actually. I love the color of this. It's kind of a burgundy brown, but it's sheer enough that it works for me even though I'm so pale. I feel like it adds a punch, but it doesn't look like I tried too hard, and it really ties the room together, right? It like really pulls the entire look together. Glossy, hydrated, not lined, overpigmented, over made up, you know what I mean? Moisturized and treated and looking like their best selves. That's what I want for my lips on a day like this. This also, it's a softening balm. I don't know what it does, but I feel like it makes my lips smoother during the day, and they have that kind of satiny, smooth visual quality, and that's gotta be worth something too. I mean, I know that I used the lip plumper on them, so I really prepared them, but I'm always amazed at like the texture of my lips after I put this on. I had to dig that out of my bag because I've been like taking it with me everywhere. So there we have the makeup look, and now that I'm done using my hands to apply it, I'm going to put on some jewelry. I feel like somewhat delicate jewelry, close to the skin jewelry, this like carefully curated collection of 14 karat gold jewelry. It's easy to put on. It's not like a big decision to make. And it telegraphs like I made a bit of an effort, you know, again, to others and to oneself. It adds an air of being put together to whatever you're wearing. Just have a little touch like that. And it doesn't take very long. What I have in my lobes right now are these solid gold hoops from Orate. They are really lightweight. They're like the perfect gold hoop to put in your ear and just forget about and wear like when you're showering, when you're sleeping, except that they are pretty substantial. You know what I mean? For some, they're not huggies. They're like real earrings. I think they're the 20 millimeter size. I'll link them below. This ring is also from Orate, the one that sort of dips down into a V over the hand. It's called the Brooklyn Bridge ring. And I think they also gave me a discount code. I still feel quite tired. I'm going to until I get a good night's sleep tonight, but I feel energized by having put myself together. Oh, one more thing. Speaking of energized, this scent is the 6th by Vireo. I have been appreciating this so much lately. It's not too sweet. It's bright. It's herbal. That's what it is. It's like herbal, but still has some sexiness to it, I have to say, now that I've had it for a while and I've been wearing it for a while. But it's not overwhelming. It's not too cloying or strong. Like it doesn't smell like the perfume section of a Sephora, which I feel like so many scents do. It's not like that. It feels a little bit more boutique, more distinct. It's like herbal and spiritual, but still a real scent and not just like an essential oil scent. I'm a huge fan. And now I especially feel kind of energized and refreshed by all that I have done. And I hope that this was helpful. I think that the main takeaway is like the overarching guiding principle, which is to work with the situation instead of trying to entirely cover it up. Practically with makeup, that means going in thin layers, doing a lot of skin prep, not trying to like completely obscure or blank out any unevenness or blotchiness or shadows, but sort of putting a gentle veil over those parts of the skin, letting them be there, but softening them a little bit. So that's what it means on a practical level. And then on a philosophical level, it's really about letting go of the need for perfection, right? And just kind of being as you are, but with a little bit of an effort made to like polish and energize and infuse. The white shirt, the jewelry, the scent, the very glossy lip, the hair back off the face, etc. And if you have any other tips, products, actually I would love to know if there's a specific product that you always reach for when you're exhausted in the morning. Is there a way that you apply makeup differently when you've had a hard night or stayed up too late that's different from what you would normally do? Let us all know. Thank you again for spending this time with me, and don't forget to take extra good care of yourself so that you can be the most effective version of yourself as you do your work in the world.